The first 30 seconds of your insurance call will make or break your entire sales process. Get it wrong, and you'll face immediate objections, hesitations, and hangups, no matter how good your lead source is. Get it right, and you'll dramatically increase your appointment setting rate and stop wasting leads you've already paid for. Hi, my name is Enku, and I've built my agency up to 52 agents while generating over $35 million in team sales. While building, I discovered something very surprising, which is our most successful agents weren't necessarily the most knowledgeable about the insurance product, but they were the ones who mastered the critical first 30 seconds of every call. And after analyzing thousands and thousands of recorded calls, I identified a specific pattern that top producers use in crucial opening moments. It's a simple framework that instantly establishes authority, builds trust, and prevents the early objections that kill most insurance calls before they get started. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what to say in those first 30 seconds of your calls to help double your contact to appointment ratio, regardless of what type of insurance that you sell. I'll give you the exact words that consistently convert, along with the psychological reasons they work so well. As far as the first one is concerned, the first is the phone call psychology you need to understand. So first and foremost, why the 4-5 seconds in the intro conversations aren't make or break. Attention spans, again, are shorter than ever before. That's why you see a lot of the reels becoming more and more prevalent. Harvard Business Review researches on phone attention spans. You have really about 4 seconds, and it's a 4-second window of opportunity where if you're not able to capture someone's attention in the first 4 seconds of the conversation, they're going to hang up and they're going to move on to the next person or to the next call, or they're just not going to be bothered to entertain anything that you have to say. Now, the reason traditional openings fail in today's environment is because it's too predictable. It's too boring. If you sound like a spam caller, if you sound like a robot, they're going to treat you like one and they're going to hang up on you because of the fact that, again, you're sounding like everybody else. Now, the control principle in phone conversations, how control is established in the first moments is first and foremost, tonality is key. If you don't sound like you're someone of importance, if your voice starts to tremble, if you start to lose control early in the conversation by hesitating or not knowing who you are, or you're starting to go into, huge explanations about your first, last name, your company name, never do that, because the first impressions that people get by you on the phone is super important. Even if, you are not going to sell them right then and there. It's just getting in the flow of things. And even with the objection trigger points that you have in the traditional openings, you're going to be at a natural flow state where the objection trigger points in traditional openings. So this, again, how conventional greetings invite interruptions for the most part. So if you're going into it and you're going, hey, James, how's your day going? I'm not telling you anything about, what I'm selling, who I am, what I'm offering. I'm really just going into it as if I know you, or as someone that, again, is conversating with you that's not necessarily a sales call. Now, the reason, again, a lot of times you get prospects that lie in the first seconds of calls is because they don't want to be bothered with anything that you have to sell them or offer them. And they're hesitant because of the amount of spam calls that people get and, how that destroys your confidence, your tone, everything that you have to do when it comes to your calls, where you are necessarily going into it saying, okay, well, I don't want to talk to you, or I don't want anything that you're offering, even if they are someone that put in a request looking for that said information. Now, common mistakes that destroys a lot of calls instantly. So I hear this a lot. Hey, is this John? Hey, is this Tom? Is this Sally? Why are you asking who they are when it tells you on the form exactly who the file says it is? If it's not, if it's a man and the lead name says Susie, I don't care. I'm saying Susie. Even if I'm wrong, or even if it says, oh, that's my wife, or no, I don't know who that is. Okay, well, I have a file here that says Susie. And the more that you are going into it saying, hey, is this Tom? Gives them an easy out. You never want to give them an easy out in the first 5 to 10 seconds of the conversation, because this is, again, how you're going to lose a lot of sales and how you're going to look like someone that is not of any importance. Now, the next thing that people do that's an absolute killer and destroys calls instantly is the information dump. So this would be stating your company, stating who you are, everything about yourself, and going in, when it comes to objections, over explaining a lot of the things of why you're calling and what this is in regards to. You sound like a typical cold caller ready to sell them right then and there. Remember, when it comes to sales, people do not want to be sold. They want to feel like they're making the decision themselves. And the last one, again, this is what kills your calls, is the permission-seeking approach. Do you have a minute? I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. Because if they're on the phone with you, they're on the phone with you for a reason. They picked up the phone for a reason. It never works. Well, I'm not going to say never, but 99% of the time it doesn't work, because you look like you're begging them to stay on the phone with you. And you never want to beg when it comes to sales. sales because it's never going to work for you in the long run. And as far as the psychological impact of seeming uncertain, if I went to anywhere of service, if I went to go buy a car, if I went to go to a doctor's office, if I wanted to go to a restaurant, and someone is asking me, well, if you want the best of service, right? And if you're going into it saying, are you sure this is going to work? You're going to want the same level of confidence back that you are expressing to them in the product or the service that you're looking to buy, whether that's a doctor's appointment consulting you on a certain medication, whether it's a new car you're going to buy, whether it's a certain meal that you're going to try. You want to have that same level of faith and confidence in them that they have in you when you are going through this buying atmosphere, if you want to call it that. Now, the mindset shift that you are going to need, of course, for these successful calls is you want to move from a salesperson to someone of authority. So, one thing that was always explained to me was that you always want to be the guy that is in the big swivel chair, big office executive chair, and you're the person that has all of the solutions to whatever problems it is that they have. Now, the reason that's the case is because if you sound uncertain, if you sound like you're someone that is just a salesperson, you're not really putting that much care or effort into them, and they can sense that, they're going to move on to someone that, even if it's at a higher premium cost, or even if it's less of the packages of what they're getting, they're going to put more trust in someone that is actually going to be an authority figure, or at least appear to be an authority figure to them. Now, the reason that this is the case and the importance of certainty in the approach itself is that if you're buying something like insurance is something that is delicate. It's not like you're going to McDonald's, and even if the service is the best, you're still going to get the same burger. Like, the quality of food isn't really going to change that much. You just hope they don't mess up your order, of course. But the importance of certainty in the approach itself is that you want to deal with the best of the best in the field when you are dealing with something like insurance, because otherwise, if you're not, then you are putting yourself at risk for getting some really bad coverage, or you're really not looking at it as someone that's actually going to be able to solve all of my needs. You're not being heard. And that's the number one thing when it comes to sales, is that the prospect always wants to be heard. Now, the biggest psychological state that you'll run into with a lot of these prospects is, of course, you're going to, they're not expecting calls, or the unexpectedness of the calls, the resistance that they'll feel initially, the trust that you're going to have to bridge very quickly, making sure that you're, of course, taking control of the call without being too pushy, the difference between being assertive and aggressive, how to be direct while still remaining professional. A lot of this just comes with time and repetition, but the biggest thing that I'll say is that when it comes to building trust on a call, especially early on, the tonality, and if someone's doubting your level of authority in the early stages of the conversation. So if you're going into it and you state who you are, hey, this is Nku. How's your day going so far, John? Or hey, John, this is Nku. How's your day going so far? If your initial response to that as the prospect is to say, who is this? What is this about? Your initial approach is not to doubt or to second guess anything as far as what it is that you're offering, because they didn't hear you. Your response to that is to double down and to tell them again who you are and how their day is going, and then go into, then once they have your attention and once they're following that portion, going into what it is that you're actually reaching out to them with regards to, which is, of course, their coverage and their different options that they have available to them. Now, when it comes to being assertive and being aggressive, again, this goes back into the big office chair that you're sitting in. They need to be someone of respect that you are speaking to, and you also need to be respectful when speaking back to them. And what that looks like is, if someone is kind of wheeling you around and saying, okay, well, I'll let you know, can I email you, or this sounds good. If they're kind of giving you the runaround, obviously they're not respecting your time, or at least they're trying to test whether or not your time is valuable in that sense. And that's the one thing that I've always mentioned that you have to do, is respect your time, and making sure that you understand that, hey, I'm only available these times and these times. For you specifically, you have to acknowledge to them that, look, this is a coverage option. I'm not going to sit here and waste 15, 20 minutes out of my day with someone that's not interested. And that's just the approach that you need to have, because just because they answer the phone does not mean that they're a prospect that's ready and willing to buy in that moment. So respect your time when you're on the phone with these people. And obviously, being assertive is more important than being aggressive, because the second you start becoming aggressive to them, you look more like a salesperson than you do someone of authority. So the perfect 30-second opening. Of course, the first and foremost, the most important thing that you need to worry about is the confident greeting approach. So the direct name, address technique. So, hello, Tom, versus, is this Tom? tone and delivery are, of course, extremely important. So if I'm slouched over and, I don't have the same confidence in the conversation, if I sound uncertain, then I'm not going to get the same reaction from the client. Where if I'm calling them knowing this is Tom, hey Tom, how's it going? Hello Tom, this is XYZ. From there, I'm not explaining the last name. I don't put the company name either. And the reason for that is in the first 5 seconds of the conversation, I don't want any questions about, what company, who's your name again? I just want it to be as confident and direct as possible when I'm going into it, saying, hey Tom, this is Enku, how are you doing? Now the only thing they have to answer to in that sense is, how are they actually doing? How is their day actually going? Now the aspect from there is that it's less pattern interruptions, and it's commanding the attention that, hey, this guy sounds like he's someone of importance. I'm going to respond to the last question he asked me, which is, how is my day going? Or how is it going so far? Or whatever iteration that you want to use for that. Now, the powerful reconnection statement that is used in the first 30 seconds, the getting back to you psychology, and again, why this works better than explaining your call, is you're assuming that this is someone that you'd already speaking to before, and this is someone that you've had a connection. Hey, I'm just getting back to you regarding this XYZ inquiry, this healthcare information that you were looking into. And so then it's just going into that, hey, I'm just reaching out to you to see if this is something that you're still open to, versus your own agenda of whatever it is that you're trying to sell, whatever policy you want to show them. That way it allows them to, one, take the out if they're truly not interested, or if they're saying, I was just kind of looking around. You get more of a natural conversation, which is what you want when you use that type of, phrase. And in addition to that, you're also building trust with the client, where, you're confirming the personal information once they say this is Tom or this is James or whatever their name is. And then you can go into the presumptive assumptions of what you're using. So I'm assuming you remember that, don't you? And you're getting them to agree early on in the conversation when you are building that trust, so that when you eventually get to the point where you do this, what's called the known entity effect, you are going from stranger to someone that you are, again, now familiar with, and someone that, hey, I would actually, even if I'm not able to buy from you anything in the moment, I might have people that I can refer over to you during that process. And so you want to build on existing trust rather than creating new trust by using certain methods and methodologies like I've mentioned, by assuming that you already know them, sounding confident and erect in the voices that you use, and in addition to that, keeping the intro as minimal as possible so that you don't sound like a salesman or someone that's sitting here and looking to close every single person that you get on the phone, because that's just not always going to be the case. Now, going into the authority position statement, so why the idea of how you're positioning yourself is important is because if I'm going into it and I'm saying, yeah, I'm just an insurance agent, then you're now lumped in with the other 950,000 insurance agents that are in this country. But if you say something along the lines of like, yeah, I'm just a state advisor that I'm, assigned to the task to look at all of your options available, now we look like someone that's a little bit different, that is not directly aligned with the salesman mentality, that whether or not they buy, I'm not going to be super displeased over how the conversation goes. Or I've been assigned to help you with this. This is someone that obviously has an additional level of perceived value to them, and it removes the sales pressure. You want to minimize that sales pressure as much as possible, as far as that's concerned. And then you always want to make a lot of relations to them as well. So, I'll be in your area on Tuesday or Wednesday. That way they're like, okay, well, this is not just some random guy calling me from India that is looking to sell me on something or steal my bank information at the end of the day. That's where you're able to create a convenient opportunity. If they say they're from Wichita, Kansas, and maybe you have family there, maybe you don't, but you're able to relate that location to them. If they have kids, if you hear dogs in the background, you can relate that aspect to them as well, and just naturally build that trust once you have identified that they are someone of interest in the product that you have to offer. Now that we have the perfect opening to the 30 seconds, now the perfect close to the opening 30 seconds of the conversation is we have the alternative choice booking technique. So this is the either or methodology. So once you get past that, the morning or afternoon psychological effect, and why this approach bypasses the yes-no resistance, which again, if someone says, hey, are you more of an afternoon or morning person? You have to answer that. There's no out from that if you've already gotten past the initial hiccups or worries there. So now you're not, you're pretty much giving them the illusion of choice, which is in turn drives the decisions of what you're looking for. So instead of kind of pushing them, you're slightly nudging them to the decision that you want them to make. The delivery information premise, so drop off some information, I can send you over some information to look at, works a lot better than saying, hey, what time works best for you? I want to set an appointment with you. Now, again, both work, but now you're going about it to where if you're trying to see least amount of resistance possible when looking to get the sale. Now, the assumptive nature of the close is something that's also very important as well. So it's like what I like to do in this sense, and what I've done is I'm foreshadowing when we hop on the phone next. Or, so next Tuesday when we hop on the phone, or so Friday I'll be able to do X, Y, and Z. So you're gatekeeping certain information and then saying, hey, when I hop on the phone with you on Thursday or Friday, I'll be able to have all this information and I'll be able to go over with you when we touch base again. So now I'm already putting in their head that we're meant to speak again. Then I'll go back into it saying, are you more of a morning or afternoon person, and get the exact time that works best for their schedule. Now, if they say, what information, then, or just being able to handle immediate responses more effectively, that honestly, what I've learned from that is that I'm always going back to the appointment. I'm always keeping control of the conversation when they ask questions, because again, I want to seem like I am the person of authority. When this is the case, the less you sound certain, the less the more availability that you look like you have, the more that you hesitate, the more that you are getting defensive, less likely you are to get the sale, less likely you are to get the appointment, less likely you are to build trust. So these are all things that I like to make sure that I'm implementing early on in the conversation to make sure that I'm setting the appointment and, of course, getting the close once that time does come into play. And then the last thing is practicing it until it becomes natural. So when it comes to objections, that's something that you will need to practice over and over and over again. There's only a handful that I usually hear when I'm on the phone, which is, I'm busy, email me, stop calling me, meaning like you're the millionth person to call me, or I've already gotten this taken care of. Those are really the first four that I run into. There might be some other ones, but those are the main four that I typically run into. And so just learning how to overcome those, knowing the proper techniques into hitting the pain points that they say, okay, well, they got it covered. Who do they get it through? And then are we going to be able to beat the rate or get them better coverage? Or is it a lost cause? And do I have to move on to the next lead? Because if we do have to move on to the next lead, obviously that's not someone that we have to set an appointment with. And then from there, add your own style to it. So the beautiful thing about scripts is that scripts are meant as a guide, but implementing your own personality to it and finding your ability to have your own authentic voice, because they can't see you 9 times out of 10 you're hopping on the phone with these people, and just being able to add your own style, add your own jokes, add your own rapport building questions, will just slowly start to build on it gradually and slowly be able to start improving on it one element at a time. Confidence comes through small wins. And so being able to create your own version of the framework and mastering that will work a lot better than just mastering a script that everybody in your office is already using. And so here it is. Putting it all together for you guys, the word for word script template. So they got the health insurance version, of course, the life insurance version that you have in place as well. You need to obviously use the specific language for the Medicare, ACA, and group calls. Obviously, you need to adapt it based off the type of leads that you're running through. And then, of course, there's specific phrases that elicit positive responses as well. So, let's say I was going through a health insurance version of that script. It would look something like this. Hey, Tom, this is NQ. How's your day going? They normally say going well. Great. I was just, touching base on your health coverage search. Just wanted to follow up with you and see if that's something that you were still in the market for. And they go, oh, not really. I actually got that taken care of. You go, okay, great. That's actually the reason I was calling. Just so I can update the file here, was that something that you got through an ACA plan, or did you end up going through your employer? And they say, oh, well, I went through my employer. Gotcha. And was that because they were able to get you the best rate? And then, from there, I would obviously see if that's someone worth helping. But let's assume that, let's say, oh, no, it was actually $500 a month. Oh, well, I can actually get you for a rate here that's going to be coming in a little bit less. I just need to confirm some information here, if you don't mind me asking. And, from there, I'll say, okay, well, it's $250 a month instead. Does that sound like something that'll work? Oh, actually, no, that sounds great. Okay, perfect. Well, I'd love to obviously go through the details of the plan with you, but it sounds like you're driving at the moment. Are you more of an afternoon person or a morning person the rest of the week? Oh, well, typically the evenings are usually what works best for me. Perfect. I got a 6:30 and a 7:45 available. Which one of the times works best for you? And, from there, 7:45, I should be good by then. Perfect. I'm going to confirm the information here that I have, send you over the calendar invite. And then for whatever reason, if you're not able to make the invite, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to have that time prioritized just for you. Look forward to speaking with you then, Tom. Oh, sounds good, man. Appreciate your time. Boom, done, closed. And I have a lot of examples like that of where, initially they might not be interested. You get them a price as soon as possible. And all of a sudden they're interested. All of a sudden their schedule opens up. Pick a time of the 2 slots you give them that's available. And then boom, you got yourself a free appointment that Really, all you got to do is just beat a $500 rate, or beat a certain rate, or beat a certain coverage style of what they're looking for. If the margins are slim and you're not really able to beat them out, then you can attack the angle of just maybe even being a better agent to them if they're having issues with customer service. But at the end of the day, the implementation plan for immediate results is day one action steps, tracking success as far as seeing what works with that script and obviously making adjustments based off that, and then having accountability for consistent use. So being able to record strategies for your certain, areas of self-improvement, being able to put in implementation goals that are in place. And honestly, what I love about this framework is how dramatically it changes your results without requiring you to become a different person. You don't need to be naturally charismatic or aggressive. You just need to follow the proven method that sets you up for success from the very first moments of the call. I've seen agents take this approach and immediately double their appointment setting rates with the exact same leads they were struggling with before. The difference wasn't in the quality of the leads or even the overall sales skills. It was entirely in how they handled those first 30 seconds. Try this framework on your very next call, and even if it feels uncomfortable at first, stick with it and you'll thank me. The discomfort of using a new approach fades quickly, but the improved results will transform your business permanently.